Hi everyone, hope you're well. Today our session will introduce the basics of test preparation, and I will also introduce you to our instructor Parth Loya. Do watch the whole video so that you can understand why it is important to have a test prep strategy, what test prep scores will land you in a top college, when should you start your preparation, how should you start your preparation, and how can you plan better. TNI Career Counseling is a boutique global admissions advisory, career counseling and test prep venture catering to high school, college, working professionals and institutions to provide measured educational and career outcomes. My name is Dhaval Mehta and I am the founder of TNI Career Counseling. So now, since we've gone through the agenda for the video, I am going to introduce Parth. Parth is an IIT graduate from IIT Bombay, and he has a degree, a master's degree in from University of California, Berkeley. And I would want Parth to let us know more about why he chose to go from to the IITs, and tell us about his journey, and then tell us about his journey to his master's school. And I might add this part is that Parth is actually from Ujjain. So I'd love to know a little bit more about your background, your family, and I think that'll then I think Parth will introduce you to test prep and what motivates him to teach.
Okay, thank you, Dhaval, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Parth Loya, as you might know now, and I am from Ujjain. And I belong to a joint family in Ujjain, and I have a very big family. And what really motivated me to go for IITs? That's a good question. Actually, I was already always interested in higher education and learning, and one of the things that attracted me towards IIT was its excellency. That it's one of the high-ranked institute in the entire nation, and it's one of the places where you can become excellent at whatever you are. So that excellency was attractive to me. So I wanted to become excellent in any field possible. So that really motivated me to pursue IITs, and that was my ambition on getting entrance into IIT. So that's how I landed into Mumbai first time from Ujjain. And after entering into IIT, as many of my peers might know, that it's a very creative place. You get a lot of different ideas and a lot of different opportunities. So I'd also delved into debating. I delved into research and event management. I organized a festival called Mood Indigo. So after doing all of that, I realized that my interests are more into higher academics, and I chose doing masters. And it's also an interesting story that many of my peers were going for placements, and I voluntarily chose out of the placements. I didn't take placements from my campus that my campus was offering to me, and I instead just thought that if I didn't get any of my universities, also I will just work one more year in IIT only. I will do some kind of research work and something else. I will build my profile, but I want to go to MS. I want to go to abroad only for my masters, because I thought that I think doing masters from abroad universities is a better choice as compared to doing it from here in India. So therefore, I chose to go for masters in an abroad university at a US university, because they are very good ranked. So I think my curiosity was to chase after excellency, and therefore I chose some top universities abroad for my masters, and I got admitted into UC Berkeley. So there I was fortunate.
So that was your university of choice.
Yeah, that was university of choice.
And what was your area? What was your area that you worked? Or what was your area of research, and what was your area of of your major at Berkeley?
My major was in civil engineering, and my specialization was in transportation engineering. So I always fantasized about how cities are structured. Like if you see a city, there are so many routes that connect it towards
Yes.
different locations, and you have urban areas, then you have residential areas, and you have central business district. So people move to and fro from there and here. So I was always curious about how people navigate from all this like different routes, and how the cities are structured, how they are optimized. So this was my fantasy. So therefore, I chose transportation engineering. I did a project in BTech. So interestingly, I took a quadcopter, like a drone,
Yeah.
basically, and I flew it above IIT campus, and we shot a video of how vehicle is flowing nearby IIT gate,
Yes.
how vehicles are flowing, and then we used that video to analyze how people make changes in their lane, because in India they do not follow a lane culture. They just randomly enter anywhere they find space.
And that still happens.
It still happens, and you cannot beat auto wallahs in India.
Yeah.
They are master at optimizing the space available in
I
India.
think if at all, they would be able to help the AI algorithm, I think.
Right, right, definitely, not the
Try
other
to
way
get
around.
ahead, yeah, not the other way around. Okay.
So we did a project about it and
Yeah.
understood how people make those changes, make those decisions. So I was curious about it. And when I went to Berkeley, we did a course in behavior
Yeah.
algorithms. So we did how people make choices in their decision, like how will I make a decision to stay in a particular place in a particular locality. So we have different utilities and matching like giving preference to a particular area as compared to other area. How people are making those decisions.
Yeah.
So a lot of logic modeling and choice modeling was done when I was there at Berkeley. So
I think I'm going to definitely make another video on that as well, because
definitely.
I think we will be talking more about your major and your
Right,
area,
right,
and I
right,
think
definitely.
that would be a wonderful thing for the
Yeah.
audience, because they will get to know more about that specific area which you
Right.
discovered.
Right.
And maybe you want to tell them more about what you're doing currently also, in addition to being the instructor and
Right.
helping students.
Right.
Maybe you can tell them what you're actually doing here in Mumbai.
So I am helping City of Mumbai have a better traffic signaling system. So there are around 800 signals in the entire city, but out of them, 250 of them are working in a software which is automatically computing the green times of the entire junctions. So it is giving you how much green time should be given to a particular approach, and for how long. So it's giving you a synchronized way of looking at the traffic for the entire city. So I'm the basically engineer who is responsible for managing the software. So I'm technically seeing what are the parameters that are fed into software and if it is working properly or not. So that's how I'm optimizing the traffic of the city.
So we must thank him for, of course, if we've seen a change in the traffic systems over here or the
Right.
signals. But at the same time, I think he's also going to bear the brunt of a lot of them who get irritated with the signals not coming on. So you know where to go, right? You know who's behind it.
Yeah.
But no. But that being said, I'm sure that the audience would love to hear about why teaching. What
Right.
motivates you.
Right.
I think that at some level, with all this education that you've received,
Right.
I think giving back must be a big joy.
Right. I think, like as I discussed earlier, that I'm always driving towards excellency. So one of the parameters that I want people also is to drive towards excellency. So when I see people who are motivated towards that parameter, towards that goal, that they also want something excellent in their life. That what gives me joy, and that's how I'm trying to help them also receive something which is excellent for their life. So that's how I try to connect with them and try to motivate them to um, go for higher studies, because studies is something which I used in order to climb the ladders and get my goal. But there might be some other things which people might be using. So definitely, I would like try to understand students' perspective of what excellency introduce them, and how they are motivated to find towards it. And basically, that's what drives me in my teaching career. And basically, when I'm talking about teaching, I'm always interested in sharing knowledge, and because when you share knowledge, you learn two or three things new in that process.
Absolutely.
And it gives you more foundation to your basic fundamental concepts. So that is healthy for your mind, biologically speaking. And you never get bored out of it, and you always find something interesting. It's just another good topic to talk to a person, like, okay, let's teach you something like this. And I usually, when I'm teaching people, I ask them questions. Instead of they asking me questions, I ask them questions. Okay, why this is used, why that is used. If he's not asking me question, I will ask him some questions, just to spark some conversation, just to spark some curiosity about the
And maybe
subject
engage
matter.
them also.
Yeah, and engage them about the content and about the equations that are being used. Like, okay, why is this used? Okay, so tell me something more about it. Tell me something where it was used earlier. So I ask them questions so that they are also able to grasp the topic, and somehow it is connected with what they're studying, and draw some inspirations from the nearby surroundings to make them understand things better. So that's how.
That's very interesting. So your pedagogy is more of making that teaching engaging.
Yeah.
Making sure that you connect the student with actually the outcomes.
Right. Right.
And I think that also motivates them.
Right. Right.
To actually learn the content.
Right.
And do you follow a kind of a structured method also
Right.
with them?
Right.
Because I'm sure that timelines,
Right.
are important. Most of them come to you maybe 2 or 3 months ahead of a planned test,
Right.
and then everyone's in a rush to get things done.
Right.
You'll have students, partly some of them are in a rush, some of them are slow. How do you manage all of that?
So my approach is more student driven. So I like to get most out of the student if he himself puts effort in it, because there is no point me putting all the efforts and the student is not putting any effort, because at the end he has to give the examination.
Yeah.
So what I do always is to create a schedule, basically, like understanding how much time we have and what all subjects needs to be covered, and then placing them in the different timeline, and then giving assignments to the students to do at home, because he might be coming to my session twice or thrice a week, but remaining amount of time he might be sitting at home doing nothing or watching television. So instead of that, he could spend 2 or 3 hours daily doing my assignments.
Or they're running to other tuitions.
Or other tuitions, of course.
So I'm sure that you have a lot of those students also.
Right,
so especially the high school students, who always are packed with tuitions one after the other.
Right.
And then you have college students who actually have a college schedule to keep to. But they have a lot of assignments and projects, and and we've all been students at some point.
Right.
So, but I think that having that schedule, having that timeline makes it so much easier for them to actually know that I have this goal, and I think I have this kind of a milestone which I need to reach. So that's a great way for you also to be able to get them to actually engage. Is there anything in addition?
It gives you early warning also. Like if you are not performing well,
absolutely,
and if you are not keeping up with the schedule, then you know that you are at risk, because you are not able to follow the timeline for say 3 days or 4 days. Then you know that you won't be able to finish your course on time.
Absolutely.
So it gives you an early warning also in your preparation, which is very beneficial, especially for kids who are not organized, I would say.
Yeah. No, I think that definitely even at the school level, organization is probably the most important thing, that you struggle with, because unless you maintain a diary of things, or have a great memory which you can utilize well.
Right.
I think that most of them need someone who can drive them. So, I'm sure as an instructor, as a tutor, driving them to understand that it's imperative to finish things in time must be also taking a genuine bit of your time. You'd probably have students at both ends of the spectrum. Ones who are very smart but unorganized and lazy. And then some of them who are very hardworking, but they're not just as smart. So how do you tackle that?
So it's always difficult, because you need to understand each person's mentality and what he can do and what he cannot do. So you have to push in areas where he can perform, but at the same time understand that every person has some limitations, and you cannot always get the most amount of things the way you want.
Sure.
So fine tuning the schedule according to his needs, and I always try to understand what he is doing in his school. So if I could align my studies according to what he's already doing, so that we can be more smarter and more efficient about how we progress.
Absolutely.
Like if he has a test of physics tomorrow in his school, and he knows that a particular chapter will come, then I will make sure that I study physics with him so that he can cover his test prep also, but as well as prepare for the examinations also.
Lovely.
So, because all the content are very similar when it comes to basic concepts.
Absolutely.
All they need is different variety of analytical attitude towards solving the questions. But if you are clear about the concepts, you can solve any kind of problems.
Absolutely. And what I understand is that, of course, here at TNI Career Counseling, you pretty much cover the spectrum of test prep.
Right.
So my, of course, question before I move into the depth of it is, why test prep? I mean, there's so much you can teach. You can even teach, the IIT exams and taking that, or the IIT JEE. Why do you think test prep, sort of attracts you also?
I think one of the major reasons why test prep attracts me is because it gives you so much, like there's so much possibility, like it's so much at stake, I would say. When you are solving that test, when you're getting good scores, you are getting into a good university, so you are changing your life. So it's such a huge, I think it's so pivotal for your career to give that test properly. It is something that inspires me a lot to work towards it, because I can teach IITs and all of it, but the kind of change which happens when you go to abroad is something very different. And if people are approaching me for that kind of experience, and if I could help them in that way, like helping them with the test prep or something like that, I think that satisfies me a lot more as compared to other.
It's great to hear that. It's great to hear that, and maybe also that these test preparations, they really cover the basics of high school and college.
Right.
So I'm sure that it also is a building block, as you move forward to either doing an undergraduate or doing a master's, or maybe doing an MBA, because you even covered GMAT. So Parth actually covers the spectrum of the test prep. He teaches students, right from doing PSAT, which is the preliminary SAT, the Scholastic Aptitude Test, to doing the ACT, which a number of students have also been, have started taking on. So ACT or SATs are, it's either one of them that you have to take. Also, many of the schools across in the US have made them optional, though they're sort of say that's optional, but in some ways, yet they're required. Top schools like to see, the SAT and the ACT scores. Additionally, there are SAT subject tests, and Parth also covers math, level 1 and 2, physics, chemistry. So he teaches all of those as well. And in addition to that, Parth also teaches the GRE and the GMAT. The most beautiful thing is that he's versatile across both, the verbal and the quantitative sections. He's drawn up a beautiful chart here also, that kind of something he's going to go through as well, which will talk about, each one of the sections in a little bit more detail, and tell you about some tips and strategies as well that you can essentially use. So more of an introduction plus some tips and strategies is what I would love Parth to go through.